Good evening. Welcome to 5 a Day with Jay. I am your host, J.R. Murdock. Thank you so much for joining me. Still toying around with the setup, as one does when one works on their own YouTube channel and does everything on their own and has nobody to help him out. Hey, you know what? Sorry about the lighting. It's a little dark. If I One of these days I'll actually move back so the light is shining on my face instead of behind me. We'll get this all figured out. We'll get it all dialed in one day. One day. Soon enough. Trust me. At any rate, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that you're here. How are you this evening? One, pup date. We are puppy sitting this evening. Therefore, we have Maya and Coda over. So, mommy and I are taking care of the babies. They are having a great time. Maya and Coda, we already know, love peanut butter. Gracie discovered peanut butter tonight and absolutely freaking loves it. And nop, 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 nop. Doggies and peanut butter, am I right? So much fun. So I went to the puppy store and got the puppies some snacks to make sure they could have something to gnaw on, well, instead of just running around and chasing each other and trying to eat each other. Hey, it's interesting. Number two, and this will lead into the number five topic this evening. A lot of noise again today. A lot of noise. So I spent almost the entire day on the phone all day. It's been one of those weeks. Sometimes I have weeks where I'm sitting down and I'm just getting work done, getting work done, getting work done. Others, it's like this week where I have so much going on that I can't get everything done because I am so busy with work stuff, with taking care of conference calls, arranging things, following up on other items, making sure that things are flowing properly, having philosophical discussions on cybersecurity and how things should be handled and how should the data be handled. It's a lot. But number three, the noise. The noise was the removal of more trees, a lot more trees. The road we live on, it's there's a homeowners association in here, so there's people that come and take care of the street and take care of cleaning up all the debris. Well, they removed a couple of trees across the street 7 or 8 months ago. It's been a while. They removed those trees. It was loud, but they took them down, and now you can see the sky over there. I, I wish they hadn't. They were a couple of large pine trees, very large pine trees. Don't know why they cut them down. Never asked. Well, about a week ago, they took care of a couple more further down the road, and I'm like, well, that's strange. And I just happened to be recording a time lapse that evening, so I got the stars, and then I got the sun the next day, and I'm watching the time lapse, and I just see two trees just completely disappear off of the time lapse, and I'm like, what? So I actually had to go and look, and yeah, sure enough, the trees are gone. And then yesterday, they removed one that was directly across from the office. Just one. It took them a long time. It was one of the largest trees on the street. Again, another pine tree. They just trimmed all the branches all the way up, cut the trunk all the way down. Tree's gone. As I had said yesterday, it was fascinating to watch. So today, I decided if they come back, I'm going to do a time lapse. So I set up a time lapse in the other room so that there was nothing blocking the view and I can get a good view of where they might be. Because, as I mentioned, everything that's been cutting down has been a pine tree. And I'm like, well, there's still a whole bunch more pine trees here. Sure enough, they took the pine tree that was next to it. They took the pine tree on the other side of one pine tree. They took another one up the street. They came back for the last one because it was close to a fence. They had to tie the branches off and feed those down. They couldn't get the bucket up there, so the guy actually had to shimmy up the tree. Five more trees gone. I don't know why. Number four. So I talked to the neighbor. She got home and I mentioned, I wonder what they're doing with the trees. She said something I hadn't thought or considered because I wasn't aware of it. There are juniper trees in the area that are diseased, and they've removed the juniper trees. They cut them down, gone. There is another disease running through some of the icicle plant around the area. If you've ever been in Southern California, a lot of the freeway surfaces have icicle plant so that when a car goes up, that plant will slow the vehicle down, and it also provides greenage and coverage to cover the whole area to prevent it from eroding and flowing down. And it's a low plant, unobtrusive, but apparently they had to remove a lot of that because of disease. That got me thinking, well, they removed those two pine trees and then they removed all the pine trees. I'm wondering, is there some type of a beetle or a disease or something that's running through the pine trees in the area? So they're just preemptively removing the trees, which it's a double-edged sword. I mentioned this last night. It's interesting to watch the process and how efficient they are at removing these trees. But again, they're trees. They're gone. It's frustrating. The other positive is now I have a much more clear view of the sky. So if you've ever watched any of my time lapses over on TikTok where I record the night sky, I'll have a much more clear view of the night sky and the stars, which I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know if I should feel good, bad, indifferent. It's weird. It's really strange. I'm going to miss the trees because I like trees. It was weird at one point during the day. I've talked about the birds many times. There's a lot of birds that hang out in the tree. They go down to the bird feeder down below. So I watch them throughout the day. They'll catch my eye, and I'll see them fly from the trees across the street to the trees on my side, and then down to the feeder, and then back up to the tree, and then back across the street. Those pine trees are all gone. So at one point, while I was on a call, and I'm looking up the street to see which tree they were cutting down because it was just so freaking loud. I saw a cluster of birds that came from beyond where those trees were, and they flew around where the tree should have been, and then came across the street to this tree. It was their stopping off point, and now it's gone. It's weird. At any rate, the trees are gone. I don't know if they're going to replant more. I don't know if they're going to dig those hideous stumps out of the ground or what the plan is, but trees are gone. Which brings us to number 5. As I said, we can now see the stars. We can now see the sky a lot more clear from where we're sitting. I can see all the way across to the hill where I know the coyotes come running down. But when it comes to stars, let me take you back once again to my childhood. Again, grab a map, put your finger in the middle of Minnesota, about halfway between Duluth and Minneapolis. That's where I used to live. Middle of nowhere. When I grew up, we didn't have lights outside. No one had lights. The nearest street light was at the corner, way over there. We didn't have a lot of light pollution at all where I lived. I read a report that McGregor, Minnesota was one of the darkest cities in the country. And as I said, we lived half an hour away from town. Look up at the night sky. In Minnesota, there are so many stars. There were times when we would just go lie out on the grass and just stare up at the sky and marvel at how many stars there are. Living in the city, you really don't get an appreciation for just how many stars there are. You can be out on the darkest night and the starlight will be so bright, and it's amazing. You could walk around by starlight. No moon, doesn't matter. Brilliant from the light from the stars. One thing you can't see in the city is also the Milky Way galaxy. Up in Minnesota, you could have the North Star, you could see the Milky Way galaxy come into view. Absolutely breathtaking. It's stuff like that that I would love to go into a dark area again to be able to see that. I don't know what I would want to stay late, but obviously if you don't stay late, you don't get to see the stars all night long. But even the stars, the galaxy, all of that was a regular occurrence growing up in Minnesota. The most amazing thing about being that far north, and perhaps people in Washington still see this, but In California, in Southern California, we don't get it. It's the aurora borealis, the northern lights. It's an experience. It really is. If you've never seen the aurora borealis, you don't just see these wavy green sheets in the sky, you hear them. If you're in an isolated enough area, you will hear the northern lights. The crackling, the staticky noise that they make is truly fascinating. The greens, the purples, the colors that sway, and just sheet after sheet rippling through the atmosphere is shocking the first time you see it. It truly is. And I remember vividly seeing this as a kid. And one side you got the northern lights, the other side you got a blanket of stars. Just an amazing amount of stars. When I do my time lapse videos, I get some stars. I get a good enough amount of stars that the time lapse looks interesting, but nothing like what I grew up with in Minnesota. Just doesn't compare. Would I move back there just for the stars? No, no, I probably wouldn't. I see the planet. I see Jupiter, Saturn, the stars in the sky. It's fascinating enough. It was something I remember from my childhood, but I would move back to a remote area like that just to see stars. It's amazing experience to have. My favorite daughter got to experience when she was very young when we went back to Minnesota. Um, I don't know if she got to look at the stars when we went back when my mom had passed, but yeah, wow, it's at any rate. Final note: I've got all the books up on draft to digital, and I keep getting notifications that it's being published in other areas. It looks like it's published at all of the regular online ebook stores, and it's published at a few libraries should libraries want to pick it up. I don't know how they do that, but I dropped the cover price of the books for libraries. So if the library wants it, it's less expensive than somebody purchasing the book. I just want the book to get into people's hands. That's my goal. Especially if it comes to a library. Hey, somebody can't afford to buy a book. Check it out. Enjoy it. Read it. Have a good time. Love to have that happen. So it's nice to see it's all in all the online bookstores. Again, only 9 of my books are out there on all the online bookstores. I'm still need to rebrand the V&A universe. I still need to update the website, and I still need to sit down and get Giant Robot Planetary Competition Book 3 completed. Uh, I feel like I'm wasting time, but I know I'm not because there's just so much going on right now. The brain can only handle so much, and I know I need to get that book done and prepared so I can release it next year. And then I need to get working on Almost Superheroes Book 3 and get that one ready, and the next, and the next, and the next. You see the pattern here. At any rate, this has been 5 A Day with Jay. I've been Jay. You've been awesome.